to your last moments to death. With the rising and setting of the sun, a day passes and is lost. Why do you remain idle, not serve the Lord of your heart? This life is temporary. This temporary life is full of miseries. Take shelter of the holy name as your only business. To penetrate the darkness of ignorance and bless everyone's heart, the holy name has risen like the shining sun. Drink the nectar of the pure holy name of Krishna. There is nothing but the name to be had in the 14 worlds. It has filled the soul of Sri Bhativinoda Thakur. The Guranga is calling, wake up, sleeping souls. Wake up, sleeping souls. How long will you sleep in the lap of the witch called Maya? You have forgotten the way of devotional service and are lost in the world of birth and death. I have descended just to save you. Other than myself, you have no friend in this world. I have brought the medicine that will wipe out the disease of illusion from which you are suffering. Take this Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Bhativinoda Thakur says, I fall at the Lord's feet having taken this Maha Mantra. Okay, give me 1 second because I have to pull it up here. Can you guide this guy? Thank you. Acharya Ashtadharshita Shishiman, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtadharshita Shishiman, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhativinoda Thakur Mahashaya Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadah Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kuntan Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kapatu visha kripasanubhi vishapatitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Putarish Mati Bhakti Vikasa Swami Iti Namane. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Putarish Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Saschid Ananda Namane Gaurashakti Swarupaya Rupa Nugavarayate. Buddha Mahadvira Yamapura Vibor Nirmaya Shatiyad Amusha Burashaha Bhungti Gunan Shudasha Shudashatmaka Solanka Shishta Bhagavan Vashamsime. So you can leave this on because I'll use this later, just FYI. So today is two important days. It's the appearance day and one appearance day of one of our prominent acharyas or teachers, and another is a disappearance day. So I'll talk about the disappearance day. For Srila Haridas Thakur, today is the appearance day of Bhativinoda Thakur, obviously, and today is obviously also the disappearance day of Haridas Thakur. I think there's an overlap in the calendar. Because there's no Trayudashi. My understanding is Bhativinoda Thakur, in other words, last year, typically it's not on the same day. There's an overlap between the Chaturdashi and the Trayudashi, so it's coming like this, because tomorrow is Purnima. Otherwise, some technical point with the calendar. They didn't exactly appear on the same day. I mean, both events didn't happen the same day, but because of some astrological thing I can't understand, they're both happening today. There's some overlap. So, Srila Haridas Thakur first, I'll speak on. We glorify him every single day. We have so many acharyas. We have some on the altar specifically. Haridas Thakur we don't have on the altar, but nevertheless we glorify him. Srila Haridas Thakur, Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, we say in the Prema Dhvani, which is written by Srila Bhativinoda Thakur. He's a very prominent acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Well, he was born in a Muslim family. Superficially so, he was a pure devotee of the Lord from the beginning, and he was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya. I'm sure most of you obviously know this. He was designated by Lord Chaitanya, although he was born in a Muslim family. He exhibited great qualities of being a Mahabhagavat even early in his life, and it became evident quite soon. I don't know so much about his early life, but specifically his time in Puri. He was accepted as a very extremely elevated personality. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he remarked that Haridas Thakur was, something Shiromani, the crown jewel of this world. That's in relation to when Haridas Thakur passed from this world. There's a whole chapter, and Lord Chaitanya had so many associates, innumerable associates, but among those associates, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote the biography on Lord, one of the prominent biographies of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he so decided to describe the disappearance in full, dedicate a whole chapter just to Haridas Thakur. And even within Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's many descriptions of Haridas Thakur, more actually, of Haridas Thakur there you'll find. So I believe it was last year, my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda, when he read just straight from that whole chapter of the passing of Haridas Thakur. So I won't so much go over that. Again, I didn't want to repeat, although it's good to go over these things every year. Nevertheless, I want to just speak on a little different angle, give more time to Bhaktivinoda Thakur today. So Srila Haridas Thakur, I mentioned he was Namacharya, the Acharya or teacher of the holy name, which is a very extremely elevated title. As Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we follow the example that's set by Haridas Thakur in his chanting of the holy name. He chanted 3 lakh names daily, means like, I don't know, I always get it messed up around. It's something like 64 times 3, something like that, roughly-ish. And he would chant this without fail every single day. The narration is there within Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita when Haridas Thakur was attempted to be allured by, well, there's 2 incidents, I get them mixed up. Definitely the prostitute. One, he was attempted to be allured by a prostitute. And he perpetually kept delaying the prostitute, saying that, yes, I will enjoy with you tomorrow, just let me finish my rounds. And he never finished his rounds. So eventually, just by seeing the purity of Haridas Thakur, by his association, the prostitute also took up devotional service. This story is there in full in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Also, is there, Lord, when he was nearing the end of his life, still, even though he was chanting with great difficulty, he was reluctant to give up his vow of chanting this many names. It's incredibly unique among devotees to maintain such a standard. It's exceptional, actually. Haridas Thakur, he's no ordinary personality, obviously. He's a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He's also Lord Brahma. Sometimes he's referred to as Brahma Haridas. Bhativinoda Thakur specifically, he'll use that name for him. So he's Lord Brahma, who's descended into Chaitanya Lila. And you see, even, among other points of Haridas Thakur that are prominent, Lord Srila Prabhupada, he commonly quotes Haridas Thakur, including in speaking with general people, and you see this in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam as well, Srila Prabhupada writes, he will include Haridas Thakur among modern saints or prophets, what have you. When Srila Prabhupada was mentioning, for example, he would talk with priests, he would mention, yes, Jesus was persecuted, so too was Haridas Thakur, etc. So, being from a Muslim family, Haridas Thakur, many different narrations are there. There's the story of Gopal Chapal in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that was narrated some weeks ago. And then there is the story of the Qazi, which comes in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is, most of us know at least roughly this story of Haridas Thakur being caned in 22 marketplaces. So briefly, 22 or 23, I forget. 22? So briefly, this story goes as, obviously Haridas Thakur, he was known amongst the area of Navadvip, Bengal. And so it was known that he was coming from a Muslim background and very much agitated many people. Different reasons are there, actually. I mean, Smarta Brahmanas, caste Brahmanas, were agitated by the fact that he was coming within Vaishnava circles. Different reasons were there. And people approached the Qazi with complaints about Haridas Thakur, is what it boils down to. And then, receiving the complaints, the Qazi caught wind of it, and he understood that Haridas Thakur, I'm glossing over details, but he had committed, apostasy, where he's defected, basically, converted away from Islam, which is like a mortal sin. They have some word for it in Arabic, I don't know exactly. But the sin, that is punishable by death within, what is that? I want to say Sharia? Is it? Sharia law. I want to say Sharia. So basically, Haridas Thakur was brought before the Qazi, and then the Qazi ordered that he be beat to death. He'd be beat in 22 marketplaces, obviously with the idea that he'll be killed. So his henchmen, the Qazi's henchmen, they took him around Haridas Thakur to 22 marketplaces, and they were surprised actually that Haridas Thakur made it to all the marketplaces. Actually, specifically not 22 marketplaces, but he just ordered generally be beat in public marketplaces. But these guards of the Qazi, the henchmen, the soldiers, they were amazed that Haridas Thakur, despite their beatings, he wouldn't give up his life, and he took him, Haridas Thakur, to marketplace after marketplace, and still he wasn't giving up his life. And then the soldiers became scared because they realized that Haridas Thakur is no ordinary personality, that this person is not dying. So Haridas Thakur, being a Vaishnava, out of his immense compassion, it's amazing actually, he started to feel compassion amongst these men, because these men started thinking, we'll bring this, the Qazi is going to be very upset that we weren't able to kill Haridas Thakur, and instead the Qazi is going to have us killed. So Haridas Thakur could understand this, and so he feigned death, basically. He went into samadhi, yogic trance, and then the soldiers, glossing over, they became very ecstatic, seeing that apparently Haridas Thakur had died. They brought him before the Qazi, and the Qazi ordered that he be thrown in the Ganga, thinking that he'll attain an inauspicious destination. Because according to Muslims, that's a terrible result. According to us, of course, we understand that's an amazing destination for somebody who leaves their body. But Haridas Thakur wasn't dead. He never died. He was just in samadhi. So he was thrown into the Ganga, and then like that, he reawakens after, and then he goes before the Qazi, and then the Qazi apologizes. He understands the offenses that he's committed, and he understands that Haridas Thakur is no ordinary personality. And then, of course, Haridas Thakur, he didn't take any offense. It's amazing, such a personality as him. So too, when he was offended by the Brahmana Gopal Chapal, too, he also took no offense. He exhibits so many, all the qualities of being a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord, mercy, forgiveness, compassion amongst all of them. So, of course, a whole class could be given on Haridas Thakur. He's such an incredibly important acharya. Srila Prabhupada specifically wanted us to follow his example by following, not by imitation, in terms of chanting as much as possible, but not over-endeavoring in the sense of neglecting the activities that Prabhupada gave in regards to trying to chant 3 lakh names daily. So we glorify him, we worship him. He's an exalted devotee of Lord Chaitanya. Another exalted devotee of Lord Chaitanya is Bhativinoda Thakur himself, although he appeared after Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya left this material world. So we have Srila Bhativinoda Thakur on the altar. He's, you see in the books, I don't know, they've changed it now. In the original books, it was something like, with a picture of Bhativinoda Thakur, there's some words under there, the caption, it would be something like, the pioneer of the program to inundate the whole world with Krishna consciousness, something like this. They've changed it a little bit now, I think to spread Krishna consciousness or something. But so Bhativinoda Thakur, of course there's many different acharyas or teachers within the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Within the Vaishnava Sampradaya, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, obviously we go back to Madhvacharya and even Lord of Brahma and Krishna himself. Prominent amongst those acharyas, there's many. Specifically, we come in line of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya gave very specific teachings. We follow those teachings. But even more than that, we have our origins with Lord Chaitanya himself, and origins actually going back to the beginning of time. But specifically for us, followers of Srila Prabhupada, and generally as well for those followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which are more, which encompasses a wider tree, we could say. So this spiritual family tree, it blossomed with the advent and efforts of Bhativinoda Thakur. He defined really what we kind of like now know. He put into a more systematic way what we now know as Krishna consciousness. Of course, everything was there. Don't get me wrong; the whole philosophy was there, but many of the just so much of what's characterized by just like Srila Prabhupada set up his International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So within our liturgy, the songs we sing every day, at least 2 of them are by Srila Bhativinoda Thakur. Actually, technically 3. Sandhya Arti, Gora Arti, Jaya Radha Madhava, and then Prasada Seva 1 is entitled, the Sharira Vidya Jal, etc., like that. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as well, and would incorporate many songs of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur within his also liturgy of the Gaudiya Math. I'll speak on his songs later, but I'm just making the point that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, even the idea of not incorporating, I don't know if they did such a thing then, but having a Vaishnava society, a legal entity, a formal entity of Vaishnavas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, of course, those things were already there in an informal sense, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur established the Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha, the Universal Assembly, the Royal Universal Assembly of Vaishnavas, to give a bad translation. So he established this as a Vaishnava society, and then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took the idea further. He took up that same, he was still involved with that same society. Later, he founded his own society, the Gaudiya Math, and then Srila Prabhupada, so similarly too, later established ISKCON. So this idea has its roots in Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, bringing Vaishnavism, which was otherwise during the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, sort of a loose, nothing officially existing, we can say like that, nothing institutionalized, we can say is the better word. But he took those things and put them into a solid form. He put the teachings of Lord Chaitanya into very solid form in his writings and his songs, which previous acharyas had also did, but Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur did profusely. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur being being the root from which this tree is blossomed, subsequent acharyas, we see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself, who is the son of Srila Bhativinoda Thakur. He strongly identified Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, although he was his apparent material, quote-unquote, father. Nevertheless, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he always saw Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur as a Mahabhagavat, and he always revered Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. The prime subject of study of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta during his youth, even though he's very learned, we see now, we can read in his books, and we hear of his classes, and we hear stories of him. He knew so many shastras, but still, the primary subject of his study was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's books, Jaiva Dharma, Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, two of his classics. He wrote so many books, actually, many which aren't even translated into English yet. I'll touch on that a little bit later too. But so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he strongly identified himself as a follower of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. He'll quote Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's songs as if, they are equal to Shastra. He will quote them as if they're equal to Shastra, and we understand they are equal to Shastra. Because they describe nothing else than what is within Shastra. We see, specifically I remember when I was reading Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, there was some excerpt of a lecture, a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he was just saying, he out of nowhere he quoted something, and he said, one Mahajan has sung, and then he quoted Srila Bhativinoda Thakur. Now he could have said, my Guru Maharaj, because Srila Bhativinoda gave Bhaktisiddhanta Harinam initiation. He could have said so many things, but he counted him among the Mahajanas. So, of course, Mahajanas means, generally we refer to the 12 given in the Bhagavatam, but it also means Mahajanas are still coming and going. They're still appearing within this world. So, it just struck me that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he thought of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur as such, quoting him just with such a pronoun such as that. So, Srila Prabhupada, similarly too, he identified, our own Srila Prabhupada, identified himself as a follower of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, as continuing on what Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur set into motion. So yeah, I'll give a little bit more about the just general workings of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, which we may have heard about. So generally, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he did a lot to reform Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which was sort of in the gutter at the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur for almost 300 years. The Gaudiya Vaishnava community was characterized by Sahajiyas, Sahajiyas means many different groups, deviant, upper sampradayas, we can say. Auls, Bauls, Kartabhajas, etc. Among them Sahajiyas. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism wasn't in such a good state. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he did much to rectify Gaudiya Vaishnavism within the general society of Bengal, especially amongst the upper class. Both within Bengal, and he tried to introduce it to Westerners as well. And he was successful to quite a great degree, actually. We hear of, for example, him sending books to McGill University, among other things. Srila Prabhupada will quote that. So how did he do this? Primarily by his writings. He would lecture, he would speak, he would meet different prominent people, and chiefly through his songs, and also very prominently his writings, he would do so. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he's sometimes viewed in different lights, in the sense that sometimes he was reconciliatory, having a reconciling manner towards those upper sampradayas, being a little more accommodating or open in terms of trying to get them, being open in the sense of hearing them out with the idea of bringing to the platform a pure devotional service, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta didn't tolerate anything. For example, but too, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, sometimes he was very striking in his language too, if you read some of his books or some of his songs even. A good example of him being reconciliatory or his compassion is, for example, you see Bal Sangeet, one of his songbooks, some of his words there, but it's sometimes soft and sometimes very harsh. Sometimes addressing them as brothers, sometimes addressing them as disciples of Kali. So too, you see in one book, semi-famous book of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, Sri Krishna Samhita, there is the description there of, I believe it's that book if I'm citing correctly, there's a description of of different philosophies. He gives a whole different set of philosophies. Amongst them, he lists one, he goes through everything basically. And he when he gets to the point of theism, he goes through different ideas of theism. And he lists one such religion he doesn't name, which thinks that God had incarnated into this world in flesh and blood and accepted the sinful reactions of all living entities. And because of this, he had to die on a cross. He had to become crucified to resolve all living entities of their sins. And he remarks in this regard that no intelligent man can make sense of this sort of system of religion. So sometimes he was very soft and accommodating, sometimes he was very blunt, actually. You see in his songs, sometimes he's quite Kalyana Kalpataru, you see he's very blunt in some places. So, both sides are there. He emphasized Bhativinoda. Vinod means, you could say like joy or happiness or bliss, roughly, you could say like that. So he emphasized more than, say, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, the bliss of devotional service, the happiness of devotional service. And we get that mood from him. Of course, Bhativinoda Thakur, he's not a stereotyped individual. He's a multifaceted personality that you can't capture. Even if you were to write a whole multi-volume encyclopedia on him, you still can't fully capture him. He's very, by nature, Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we have this prefix to his name, presumably given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Prabhupada used that prefix in his teachings of Lord Chaitanya, who he dedicated his book to, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is always in bliss, and you can see from his songs, particularly his Gitavali is the songbook I'm thinking of. You see many happy songs to describe there. You see there's a very general mood of the happiness of devotional service, the liveliness of it. You see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives us his vision that he's seeing, just like we sing this song, Udila Aruna. It's one of my favorite. There's so many bhajans we could sing about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is one of my favorite personally. As well as second one, Jeev Jago, they go together kind of. They're sung at dawn when the sun is rising. It's called the Arunadai Kirtan. Arunadai means something like, just like we have this word Aruna. Aruna means like reddish. It means, just like recently Mogalila Prabhu gave this class, and in the Sanskrit was coming reddish, the reddish eyes of Lord Krishna. So when the sun rises, it has this, not so much today, it didn't have. In America, not so often, sometimes we have. In India, it's practically every single day. I don't know, I guess the atmosphere, the location, whatever. But the sun, it looks like a fiery red ball, and it tinges the whole horizon with this red hue. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he describes how at this time of day, Lord Chaitanya goes out with his own men, and they chant Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari, chanting the names of the Lord. The mridangas are resounding tatai tatai, the wampers are resounding in time, etc. like this. And you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving that vision he's having. It's not just he's making something up, he's having this vision of Lord Chaitanya, and he's sharing that ecstasy with us. So similarly to Gora Arti, Sandhya Arti, Kiba Jaya Jaya Gora Chandra, Aratika Shobha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing his own vision of seeing Lord Chaitanya. He's giving us that meditation, which we can then also meditate on, of Lord Chaitanya being worshipped on the banks of the Ganges by Lord Brahma himself, with all the demigods assembled, as well as Mukunda, Bashu Ghosh, etc., all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, Sanjay, Mukunda, etc., like this. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he can see these things. He's such an elevated personality, and he's sharing these realizations with us. So getting back to coming down on our line, these are some of the things generally Bhaktivinoda Thakur is known. There's so many things I could go on. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he established a press. Of course, press was already there in India, but Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur specifically within the Vaishnava community, works were already there, but he made a very specific point of utilizing the press in Krishna's service and Lord Chaitanya's service. He installed a press next to his house. His house was called Bhakti Bhavan. And the press, he gave the title Sri Chaitanya Yantra. It means like the machine of Lord Chaitanya, to give it also bad translation. But he utilized the press, probably the first Gaudiya Acharya to do so, actually. Although Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is generally equated with the press, he got that from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he put so much emphasis on writing, publishing, and seeing that books are distributed. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and then Srila Prabhupada, they carried this forward. Srila Bhativinoda Thakur, well, anyway, I'll just get to the point where, before I lose my train of thought. So Srila Prabhupada, he's coming down in this line. Srila Prabhupada identified himself as a follower of Srila Bhativinoda Thakur, as did his own Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He said, I tried to fulfill, tried my little bit to fulfill the desire of Srila Bhativinoda Thakur. Srila Prabhupada, he preached Krishna consciousness all over the world, and this inspiration to do so came, of course, from Lord Chaitanya, Pritiviti, Achi, Jatanagaradi Gram, etc. But principally, we see Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur as the one that was actually pushing for this. He was the one who envisioned, with the globalization of society, which was then just happening at the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he saw that the globalization of society, all these modern conveniences, the printing press, they could be used to fulfill this order of Lord Chaitanya. And of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he made every single effort to do so. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur even took that further, but it was Srila Prabhupada who fulfilled this vision of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. And we, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, of course, there's, let's see, do I have that? I think I took a picture. Forgive me, bear with me one moment. I think I photoed this. Okay, let me put it in a proper form. Okay, could you turn this Apple TV back on? I'll put something up now. Okay, all right, well, I can't really zoom in so much more because, hang on, how to do it? Wait a minute. I guess I have to rotate it. I could read it, but it's very long, so I don't want to. Okay, this is better than nothing. Whoops. Okay. Okay, it may not be so visible. I'm sorry, just bear with me.
You can zoom in more.
I can zoom in, but the thing is like, okay. Anyway, the Dharma, so this is from Sajjana Toshini, which is a magazine written by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. One article he wrote, so I'll just read it directly. The Dharma preached by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, what's happening? Is universal and not exclusive. The principle of Kirtan as the future church of the world invites all classes of men without distinction of caste or clan to the highest cultivation of spirit. This church, it appears, will be spread worldwide and will retain all sectarian churches, which exclude. What is that?
Replace. Not retain, replace.
And replace all sectarian churches, which exclude outsiders from the precincts of the mosque, church, or temple. So, just giving some points here. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he envisioned Lord Chaitanya's. What Lord Chaitanya preached, this is the specific vision of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. That he envisioned Lord Chaitanya's message not just as something secular, he envisioned it as being able to become an all-encompassing world religion, which encompasses, as we're just read, it's very distinct from these sectarian churches which shut outsiders out. So this is the vision of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur specifically, his contribution. So, Lord Chaitanya did not advent himself to liberate only a few men in India. Rather, his main objective was to emancipate all living entities of all countries throughout the entire universe and to propagate the eternal Dharma. Lord Chaitanya states in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, in every town, country, and village my name will be sung. There is no doubt that this unquestionable order will come to pass. Although there is still no pure society of Vaishnavas, Lord Chaitanya's prophetic words will come in a few days come true, I am sure. Why not? Nothing is absolutely pure in the beginning. From imperfection, purity will come about. Very soon, the unparalleled path of Harinam Sankirtan will be propagated all over the planet. Oh, for that day when the fortunate English, French, Russian, Prussian, which means German, and American people will take up banners, mridungas, and kartals, and will perform kirtan throughout their streets and towns. When will that day come? For the day when the Western fair-skinned men from one side, while chanting Jai Sachinandana Ki Jai, will extend their arms and, embracing the devotees of our country, coming from another side, treat us with brotherly feelings. When will that day be? On such a day, they will say, our dear Aryan brothers, we have taken shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, which is the ocean of transcendental... Sorry, I'm like technical. I try to make it nice, but what can I do?
Flip.
Oh yeah. I thought it would do it automatically for me, but I guess...
You might have turned that flip thing off on your phone.
No, it's rotating on my phone. Anyway, okay, this is okay. Transcendental love, kindly embrace us. And when will that day come? That day will witness the holy transcendental Vaishnava Prema to be the only dharma. Like rivers meeting the ocean, all narrow creeds will mix with the unlimited Vaishnava dharma. When will that day come? Okay, so I'll put something else up in a sec, so you can just leave that on. So this is the idea of Bhativinoda Thakur, of a universal religion, spreading Lord Chaitanya's message across the world, and specifically envisioning that, specifically preaching to Westerners, which, according to my knowledge, no real Gaudiya, even Acharya, had really had such an idea. But Bhativinoda Thakur, he had that idea. Srila Prabhupada, he understood that this was coming from Srila Bhativinoda Thakur, this idea, this vision. And Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, for those who he sends out emails regularly. For those who saw, he sent one regarding Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I've heard this one. I don't know if others have had. Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk in March 6, 1974. He was in Mayapur. They were on a morning walk, and they were just coming back to the temple, and they're discussing different things in the morning walk. And then suddenly you can hear in the recording, and Srila Prabhupada sees there's a kirtan party in the distance of Western devotees chanting like that. And Srila Prabhupada, he sees, upon seeing his disciples engaged in kirtan, and his Western disciples in Mayapur engaged in kirtan, he expressed a deep sense of dependence upon Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He said, when they chant and dance, I simply remember Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I pray to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, now they have come to your shelter. Give them protection. What can I do more? I cannot do anything more. So Srila Prabhupada, although he was the one that took Krishna consciousness across the world. He was the one that made preached Krishna consciousness in America and Europe, made Western disciples. He felt himself dependent, and his whole endeavor dependent upon Bhaktivinoda Thakur, offering his disciples like that. Famously, when one disciple, Vishnujan Maharaj, he questioned Srila Prabhupada that when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was leaving the planet, he said that he was leaving with his work unfinished. And Vishnujan had asked Srila Prabhupada, what did Bhaktivinoda Thakur mean by that? He was leaving his work unfinished. And then Srila Prabhupada replied that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Vaishnava. He could have immediately finished all of his business. There was no impediment to his work. But he left that work for us, to leave service for us. And he said, Srila Prabhupada continued, let us finish. We are descendants of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He kept unfinished so that we can get the chance to finish it. That is his mercy. He could have finished immediately. He's Vaishnava. He's all-powerful, but he gave us the chance. It is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mercy. So Srila Prabhupada strongly identified himself, although not so much always quoting directly, or even, it's not that he necessarily translated his books, but the philosophy is non-different. And he always strongly identified himself as a follower of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I'm going to gloss, I have more points, but I'm going to, I don't know if I have so much time to cover them all, so I'll gloss over a few points. So, with the same idea, Dr. Thomas Hopkins, which was an early scholar of the Hare Krishna movement from even 1966, he was observing the activities of then Srila Prabhupada, then known as just A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, or Swamiji, amongst his disciples. So Dr. Hopkins, he remarked regarding this, the major factor in Srila Prabhupada's success, I am convinced, was the legacy that Bhaktivedanta brought with him from Bengal. The century of effort by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta, to relate the Vaishnava devotional path to the modern world. Not only did they, Srila Bhativinoda, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, provide the vision of a universal religion, but they had worked through many of the difficult practical questions. How the Vaishnava teachings could be presented to the widest possible audience, how they can be explained to the Western mentality, how new devotees can be brought into the Chaitanya movement, and how the movement can be stabilized to ensure its continuity. Almost every apparent innovation that Bhaktivedanta made can be traced back to the work of his predecessors. This is the writing of basically, although he's a well-wisher, a secular scholar. So even they can understand that what Srila Prabhupada is preaching is completely, what he gave to us is completely non-different from the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So yes, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1875, he predicted that very soon a very great personality will appear and take this message of Lord Chaitanya and preach it all over the world. Srila Prabhupada, in his humility, remarked, "Maybe I am that person." In 1896, as I mentioned previously, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sent copies of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and precepts, an English book written by him on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to McGill University. Subsequently, Srila Prabhupada remarks this coincidence, that was also the year of Srila Prabhupada's birth. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as well, amongst other things, he very strongly conceptualized or envisioned the establishment or re-establishment, I guess, of Daiva Varnashram Dharma. Within his commentary to the Bhagavad Gita in, 4.7, Yida Yida Hi Dharmasya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives different points, among them being that devotional service cannot be properly practiced if it's devoid of Daiva Varnashram Dharma. So he very much wanted to see Varnashram Dharma reestablished. And of course, all these things that I'm speaking, they were given in seed form by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Some efforts were made, but they were very much carried forward by his followers. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to mention a little bit about his life, a whole class will be given. Guru Maharaj, I think last year, or some year, I get it mixed up now. He gave something like a 2-hour class just speaking about the chronological events of the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. As in, so much could be speaking. I'm not really touching on that so much here. He was a government minister as his profession. Magistrate, yes, which is sort of like a high judge, we can say in modern English, within the British Raj, the British government in India at the time. So he was engaged in some government duties. That position afforded that. When he was in Puri, for instance, he was overseeing the Jagannath temple, among other things. So he had extensive material. He had it's a pretty good post, you know, to be a high court judge. Even today, what to speak of an Indian being a high court judge within the British Raj? So he had high responsibilities, but still, and two, he had a very extensive family. You can see pictures of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There are many out there. At least one that comes to my mind. And you see his family. He had 2 wives. I think the first one passed away, if I'm not wrong. But he had many children. He had a very extensive family. So he had both like extensive material work obligations, and he had very extensive family obligations too. But nevertheless, he used his time fully, always engaging in Krishna service. He was constantly engaged in Krishna service. He wrote so many books. Srila Prabhupada authored so many books, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I haven't done a count, but he was such an extensive author. There's so many books that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote. We don't necessarily even have all of them. Yeah, this is the picture. You can see Bhaktivinoda Thakur with, I think that's his second wife, Bhagavati Mataji, and then his different sons. I don't know if he had daughters. The most prominent being obviously Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
You have to point out who he is.
I don't know. I can't see so well from here.
Top left.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his final days, he remarked to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, "You're my only Vaishnava son."
And zoom in.
Yeah. So you can see a super extensive family. So he had to take care of all of them, provide for them, and at the same time he was writing so many books. He was engaging in government service, not just books, songbooks. He was meeting with people. He was lecturing. He was extremely engaged in society. He's a very active individual. And he was also very strict in his own practice of bhajan. He was an ideal grihasta, a model grihasta. Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, he remarks that formerly, and there was a period in the 1970s, 69, 70, 71, where our own Srila Prabhupada was encouraging devotees to get married. And those who wanted to stay brahmachari, there was a common remark that, who do you think you are? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then Srila Prabhupada flipped his stance. For different reasons, but he was saying, Srila Prabhupada started to encourage sannyasis and brahmacharis, and not so much grihastha life. And so then the saying went the exact opposite, that somebody was trying to get married, so people would say to them, who do you think you are, Bhativinoda Thakur? So Bhativinoda Thakur is an ideal grihastha. Many things could be learned from the life of Bhativinoda Thakur. He hardly slept. His schedule is there. You can find that online. His daily schedule is extremely regulated in what he did. He slept incredibly little. Srila Prabhupada in one lecture, he mentions, I don't know if it's according to the exact schedule, but he was mentioning Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he would take rest at like 7 o'clock p.m. and then he would rise at midnight, sleep like 5 hours, sometimes less like that. It's like amazing, you know. And during those midnight hours, those early morning hours, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur would be writing chiefly. And then he would chant japa shortly after that. During the day, he would be engaged in government service. He would do it so quickly and would resolve cases so quickly as described that he wouldn't even have to work for so long. And this way he could use his time in Krishna consciousness. So yeah, so much more can be said, but that's just a brief glimpse. Yeah, here you go. Go to that's the beginning. What is that? 8 to 10 p.m. rest, 2 hours. 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., 6 hours he would write. He would rest then briefly for 30 minutes more. Chant japa for, 2.5 hours. Correspondence, letters, study shastras, after that, an hour and a half. Then bath prasad. For 3 hours only, he would attend to his court duties. He would take a refresh at home, and then more time with court duties. You see, it's amazing. He's utilizing.
Doesn't say what happens from 5 to 8 p.m.
What is that?
Doesn't say 5 to 8 p.m. what happens.
Unknown. Free time. So yeah, it's amazing, you know. So just the idea of even trying to imitate that, resting 2 hours. What is that? 2.5 hours. Maybe he took some rest later in the day too. I don't know. Because that's not there. But I mean, heck, even for me, I'm so in the mode of ignorance, sleeping less than 6 hours is practically impossible for even 6 sometimes is chant japa, fall asleep. You see the standard of a Mahabhagavat pure devotee who's descended into this world like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So I have other points, but I will just truncate them. There's one thing specifically I wanted to read, and then I can open it for comments or questions. Okay, well, just one other point. He had many different psalm books. I wanted to go through them. Unfortunately, I don't have so much time. Most prominent, Sharanakati. At least maybe some of us are familiar with that psalm book, describing the different limbs of surrender. It's a very famous psalm book amongst devotees, beginning with the song Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jiva Doya Kori. And then he lists the limbs of surrender. And this whole song book, it just deals with elaborating on what it means to be surrendered. Just like we have this song, Shuddha Bhagatacharana Renu, some of us may know, is dealing with those processes favorable for Krishna consciousness. One aspect of surrender is accepting those processes, which are favorable, and rejecting processes unfavorable. So by studying these songs, we can understand how to properly practice devotional service. Gitavali, another important songbook. Many of our kirtans we sing are from Gitavali, Prasad songs, Yashomati Nandan. He wrote many Nam Kirtans or within Gitavali. There's so many songs actually. He has a commentary basically on the Shikshashtaka in there. Many different ashtakams, 100 names of Sri Chaitanya, Lord Mahaprabhu of Krishna. Nam Kirtans, Nagar Kirtans meant to be sung in the street. Arati songs as well. So morning Kirtan song was just sung is from there. There's other song books. I'm not going to describe them because I'm running short on time, but there's one thing I want to read. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was not only accomplished in He knew Sanskrit. He wrote in Sanskrit. One book, Krishna Samhita, is written in Sanskrit and then translated. We have translations now. Or he translated, I forget, one of the two. But it was originally, he gives the verses in Sanskrit. So he was well-versed in Sanskrit. He was well-versed in Bengali. And he was also, maybe other things, I'm not quite sure, presumably, he was also well-versed in English himself, being a high court judge within the British government, and also a very good writer, too. He has English poems, which are available to read. It's very nice, you know. There's one such poem. I won't read it here, but it begins, "Alas for those who spend their days in festive mirth and joy." And it's so poetic. It's such a beautiful poem. And it's like, you know, I don't necessarily know if English is his first language, but he has such a grasp on the language. It's amazing. One quality of a devotee is that he's poetic. He's poetic not in all languages. He possesses the capability. So there's another thing I wanted to read. Let me see, where do I have that? I think I have a PDF. Okay, bear with me one moment while I pull this up. Okay. Okay, here we go, sorry. So this was originally published in the Sajjana Toshani, a magazine that Srila Bhativinoda Thakur inaugurated. And I don't know if it's still going. I think somebody's carrying on. I'm not quite sure. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur carried that on. So this is an English article. This is from the Harmonist. So it's a poem about Haridas Thakur. So we have both things about the disappearance of Haridas Thakur. It's a glorification of Haridas Thakur, actually. So I thought, well, anyway, they'll combine somehow or another. So I'll just read this. It's a perfect combination. So this is a poetry by Srila Bhativinoda in glorification of Haridas. O born of Muslim parents, Haridas, and trained in youth in Muslim creed, thy noble heart in Vaishnava truth did pass, thy holy acts, thy candor plead. Is there a soul that cannot learn from thee that man must give up sect for God, that thoughts of race and sect can ne'er agree with what they call religion broad? Thy love of God and brother soul alone, bereft thyself of early friends, thy softer feelings, oft to kindness prone, led on thyself for higher ends. Obviously, this is older English too. I mean, even if you read contemporary English that's 100 or English speakers 100 years ago, the English is like this. So, I weep to read that Qazis and their men oft persecuted thee, alas. But thou didst nobly pray for thy wicked din, for thou wert Vaishnava, Haridas. And God is boundless grace to thee, O man, united thee to one who came to save the fallen souls from evil's plan of taking human souls to shame. And he it was who led you all that came for life eternal, holy pure, and gave you rest in heaven's enduring name, and sacred blessings ever sure. Thy body rests upon the sacred sands of Swargadwar, which is in Puri, a funeral ground, you can say in Puri, near the sea. Oh, hundreds come to thee from distant lands, to enjoy a holy, thrilling glee. The waters roar and storming winds assail thy ears in vain, Vaishnava soul. The charms of Vrindavan thy heart regale, unknown the wheel of time doth roll. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still and sound. Thy Vaishnavas die to live and try to spread a holy life around. So then let the candid man that seeks to live follow thy way on shores of time. Then posterity, sure to him, will give like one song in simple rhyme. So Srila Bhativinoda Thakur, he wrote this in glorification of Haridas Thakur. This verse, particularly, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die. So Srila Bhativinoda Thakur is saying that it's a foolish idea to think that today is the disappearance of Haridas Thakur, but it's foolish to think in one sense. It's bad reasoning to think that he has disappeared. He's still continuing. And just a side note, technical note, but common mistake, it's to spread a holy life around. Somewhere along the path, the speculation that holy name around has come in and is even printed in some BBT books.
Yeah.
But that's a speculation. It's not what Srila Bhativinoda Thakur wrote. It's holy life. So yeah. So okay, I have like 10 minutes left, so I can end my class there on these two stalwart acharyas. More could be said, but that's the extent of my knowledge of them. So much could be said about their life, their teachings. I didn't even really get into that so much. You have a whole seminar practically, but what can you do? So if anybody has any comments, questions, or additions they want to make.
Well, we're sadhu. When that photo of Bhativinoda Thakur was being shown with his whole family and he had 2 wives, I was just thinking, here are acharyas who have absolutely no material desires, no desire to come and enjoy the material world like our contaminated selves. And they took upon this kind of family burden in a time and place where there was no system, no process. In fact, like you said, that the Vaishnava Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult was in the gutters at that time. And to think that Bhativinoda Thakur went through all that trouble of being a court magistrate, of living a so-called worldly life, even acting like as a conditioned soul, all for our benefit, to be able to speak like this to us, to be able to instruct us, it's really, really, it's amazing how much trouble they have taken. Because, when we go through difficulties within our Krishna consciousness, which is completely due to our own, mental frailings and material desires, we think these difficulties are too much. They didn't have to go through any of that, and they still went through so much. And the difficulty they had to go through is actually nothing compared to what we have to go through. I was just thinking that this is just amazing, especially Bhativinoda Thakur, just literally alone, right? And I mean, look at the scene that he was in. How much association was Bhativinoda Thakur able to have? How many followers was he able to have?
As he was running, no really Vaishnava society, So
he himself expresses this desolate condition. And it's just like, I was just looking at that picture and I'm thinking, he's over there, he's with his children, and many of his children are completely unaware that he's a pure devotee, eternal associate of the Lord, and he's playing this role, all thinking of our welfare in his mind. It's just like, it's completely inconceivable. It blows my mind.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's a good point. I never thought of it like that. He didn't have to go through these things, but he went through these things for our benefit. He didn't have to work. He didn't have to accept such a position, but he did so for our benefit. Yeah. Even his family, he himself remarks like this, that many of his family didn't take up Vaishnavism. Many were Shaktas, to my knowledge, and especially even at the end of his life, as described, that when he was in ill health, his health was failing. His family, he wanted to go. I forget exactly. He wanted to go to some holy place, and he was disappointed. He didn't. His family was just keeping him back, basically, because they just had a mundane conception of him. And I briefly mentioned in class, but he called Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and he said, "You're my only Vaishnava son. Please come and take me from this situation." But he didn't have to do it. The thing is, it's like he didn't have to, he took upon all those difficulties, all the austerities, even in terms of, even the austerity to reform the Vaishnava, he didn't have to do that. Previous acharyas, they didn't necessarily do that to the extent that he did, but he took such a big headache to do so. So yeah, that's a very good point.
And I mean, his children had such a mundane conception of him that when he passed away, before Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur could arrive, they burned him.
Yeah.
You know, they burned his book because they didn't think that he was a great sadhu that had to be buried. Anyways, so many things. And these things are heart-wrenching because Bhaktisiddhanta had to see this. He knows who Bhativinoda Thakur is. It's really, it's... Guru Maharaj describes all this so much in his Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. And and another good point you made was how Bhaktisiddhanta promoted Bhativinoda Thakur so heavily.
You see the Gaudiya Math,
So heavily.
The ethos is like that.
At least what I gleaned from Bhaktivinoda, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Bhai, for example,
they sang Bhaktivinoda bhajans.
yeah, you see, for example, Sridhar Maharaj, disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he has a glorification of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and you see the devotion he has for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote it 22 years after Bhaktivinoda Thakur had disappeared from the world. Some were contemporary, they saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's not like he was some mythical character or something like that. They saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but they could understand, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta inculcated in them that vision and the understanding that he's not a mundane personality. He's a completely transcendental personality. So, yeah, it's amazing. That same spirit is still going. Anything else for the men? Mataji's, anything? Yes.
Sorry, I didn't really catch it so much, but I do remember, like, when we were reading the last song, the poem in English, there was mention of like heaven. Could you like just read that line again and like
Yeah.
some like explanation?
Yeah. So, what was that? Let me get some context. So 5 and 6 I'll read. And God is boundless grace to thee. Oh, wow. Maybe it's difficult English, so I'll put it up. And God is boundless grace to thee, O man, united thee to one who came to save the fallen souls from evil's plan. Of taking human shows the same. Basically, that's saying that he came to this world by the arrangement of Krishna to deliver fallen souls. And then in the next verse, and he it was who led you all that came for life eternal, holy, pure, and gave you rest in heaven's enduring name, and sacred blessings ever sure. So he's using the word heaven. He's writing in English, but he's referring to spiritual world. Yeah, I think also in his other English song he uses heaven in a similar context, but it's not referring to heavenly planets like Srila Prabhupada has used the term. It's referring to the spiritual world like that because he's writing for its contemporary audience. Harmonious is meant for so he tries to translate into like similar concepts, you know. So yeah, that's the idea behind that. Anything else for the women?
There was a part in the first long
Yeah.
one that you were reading.
Yes.
It said something about imperfections will lead to purity.
Yeah, actually, Guru Maharaj quotes this in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, one of his quotes. From imperfection, actually it starts with this. Nothing is absolutely pure in the beginning. From imperfection, purity will come about. And so, that can be applied to a lot of things as a general principle in terms of our own Krishna consciousness and those of others. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is specifically talking about the wretched state of Vaishnava society at the time. He was saying it's very impure, and he was saying there's no pure society of Vaishnavas. But from this impurity, purity can come about. Nothing is perfect in the beginning, but purity can come about. That's the context in which he spoke, or wrote that, I guess. Does that make sense? Is that okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just seeing it as like how much faith the acharyas had in the process. And
Yeah, that's a very good point,
that's
yeah.
what I was kind of seeing it as, and you know that faith is just a, you know, it's just kind of on the same vein of Vishnu Chitta Prabhu we were talking about. Like they do so much that they don't have to do. Like they don't have to actually follow the process. I mean, they're loving associates of Radha and Krishna, and they don't actually have to follow the process of like change up, but because they follow, they teach us how to actually connect to Krishna, because they're leading by example, and they're giving us a pure process. So that reading that line of imperfection leads to purity, made me think of like how much faith they actually have in Krishna, that they're actually following everything as Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna, had provided for us.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That he could have, along the same point, he could have easily been discouraged. Seeing that, I mean, it would be natural to do so, feeling discouraged of the state of society, but he was feeling, he had a hopefulness. And you see, though, it came to fruition. It happened. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's vision happened. It is Krishna, not only was Vaishnava society reformed, Krishna's consciousness spread all over the world and is continuing to do so. So, all glories to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Haridas Thakur ki jai.